Hey guys, what is up? It's Bring Me the Boa here, and this is a video I was talking about that's a little gonna be a little bit of an experiment. But today, essentially, I am just going to read an article and kind of react to it, and explain why I don't think that it is the most accurate. I'm actually gonna move the camera a little bit. There. But yeah, so today's video is just gonna be kind of a new type of video. I've had this news article saved on my phone because the title to me was just it was just really funny. So I just thought I'd react to it, talk about it, share my opinions and whatnot. And I'm figuring out, like, I was thinking of maybe putting something on the screen, but I don't know how to do that. So if this is liked enough, that the next one will definitely have the improvements that I wanted to do with this video. But this is an article by USA Today, and it's I Had Nowhere to Go. Mississippi hunter battles rattlesnake in deer stand. Now I saw the title of this article, and I was like, well, this is going to be entertaining. It gave me the idea for this video. So I have not read it. All I know is the title. So, geckos are fighting crickets. But, anyways, without further ado, I'll just read the article, and as I'm reading, I'll react to it. And at the end, I'll kind of have some final thoughts about it, and that'll be the layout I'm hoping to do. Jackson, Miss. When a Mississippi deer hunter went to his deer stand December 28th, he was hoping to come across a big buck. Instead, he came across something that gave him one of the biggest scares of his life. I have a metal ground blind, Mac Ginn, the beginner Ginn, said. It's up on cinder blocks. The blind has been there for a long time. It's a small blind, maybe 4 by 4, and then in parentheses, feet. You have just enough room to walk in, sit, and swivel around. Ginn said he arrived at his stand at 6 a.m. He planned to spend much of the day in it, so he brought drinks and snacks. When the blind was originally placed there, it had no floor, but I'm just going to assume it's Ginn. Ginn had a wood shipping pallet that fit perfectly, so it became the floor. Ginn placed his snacks and drinks on one of the pallet's slats next to the wall. And then, this was the picture that got me, right here. Well, I don't know if I should show that, but it's, I'll zoom in to cover the people's faces and whatnot, but it's just them holding the rattlesnake and it's dead, but, the thing looks like it's been beat to crap. And that's why I was like, this is kind of an interesting, already, article, in my opinion, just based on the picture. But I'm pictured with his brother, John Ginn, Mac Ginn, I said either, of Lexington, Mississippi, hold a 4.5-foot timber rattlesnake that was in a hunting stand with him for almost 2 hours before he discovered it. Are you kidding me? It's in there for 2 hours, and then you decided you want to kill it after you found it? So, I guess I should keep reading before I pass any judgment. It echoed in the blind and sounded like it was in the trees. All I can think of as it said that is just this poor dude just sitting there they're in the trees. Him having his gun pointed like he thinks there's rattlesnakes in there. Ginn had been in the stand watching for deer for close to 2 hours when something startled him. It was 7:45 when I first heard it. Ginn said, I heard a rattle. It echoed in the blind and sounded like it was in the trees. Jin looked up in the trees through a window, thinking it might be a cicada, but then realized cicadas would not be active in late December. He then looked at the ground outside the blind and saw nothing there either. That's what it sounded like, but a lot louder, Jin said. That's what I thought initially. Jin said he'd never heard a rattlesnake rattle, but started thinking that if he could imagine what it would sound like, it would be the sound he was hearing. When he pulled his head back in the blind, he saw a rattlesnake between the slats of the pallet. He was trapped with a rattlesnake. I jumped up in the chair. Jin said he was right next to me. My foot was on top of the pallet, only a couple inches from the snake. My first thought was to get away. I literally jumped into the chair because there was no way to get away. When I was in that chair, I realized I had nowhere to go. Jin had no room to maneuver in the small blind to get out of it. With the commotion, Jin jumping in his chair, the snake became more agitated and was striking at the chair each time it moved. Jin was in a predicament. Okay, so I'm going to pause there, because there was an actual period there, so I'm going to pause. From my standpoint, there was a lot done wrong in just that little bit there. In how they wrote this to make it more sensationalized. I really doubt that the snake was just like just trying to kill him. And I am going to say this, it's kind of the guy's fault. I mean, he did full-on jump. And assuming that this thing is elevated, the deer stand is elevated, somewhat off the ground, the movement that he would produce jumping up, so therefore creating downward force, as well as from him pushing, and then the upward force from him, like his actual body lifting up, and then the downward force of him coming down on the chair. That would produce not only quite a bit of movement as well as vibrations, but it would probably also produce quite a bit of sound as well. And if the stand is made out of aluminum, the sound's just going to echo in there. So the snake was probably startled, beyond startled, and it honestly probably thought it was going to die. But anyways, back to the rest of the article. He was standing in a chair in a small blind with a large timber rattlesnake that didn't appreciate his company. Well, I wonder why. I would not enjoy having a giant man jumping and probably screaming or saying, oh, you know? And no swearing. No swearing, because no swearing. That's not allowed. But, Jin decided that his only option was to shoot the snake with his rifle that was chambered in .270 Winchester, which is a powerful round. Editor's note: the image below might be disturbing for some of you. It's the snake after its head got. Jin was in a hunting stand for almost 2 hours when this 4.5-foot timber rattlesnake began buzzing only a few inches from his foot. He missed at point blank range. Okay. I shouldn't be laughing, but it's like, come on. You had like a high-powered rifle, and the snake is right next to you. It's literally at your foot, according to how the article is portraying it. It makes it appear that your foot's here, the snake's here. Come on, dude. Like, it's point-blank range. I guess because of stressful situations, but still. Jin took aim through his scope at the snake's head, fired, and missed. Well, that's your problem. I guarantee if you would have, like, not aimed down sight and you would have just kind of eyeballed it, you probably would have hit it. First shot. Scopes are for distance, not close range. Oh, yeah, that's actually what it says right after that is scopes are great tools for shooting at long distances, but at a couple feet, not so much. Jin then put his barrel close to the snake's head as the snake was striking at it and fired. Just based on the picture, and like I get that they're probably trying to make him look cool. Like imagining this dude sitting there with his gun and like this hand's the barrel and this is snaking like that. And, I based on how they worded it, and trying to create that mental imagery, judging by the picture, that is not at all what happened. It's very apparent from the picture they provided of the snake, the dead snake, that the injury was probably somewhere around this eye and it exited somewhere around here. Based on how they're describing it, of the snake striking at the barrel, that would not happen. He shot it in the side of the head, and it's not even like, because their head's like, hold on. Let me draw this with my poor drawing skills, but come on in, Fruit Loop. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of the news, but okay, so the snake was right here. So basically what I drew in like a few seconds, and I know like CSI, but it doesn't take like a grade A crime scene investigator to determine where an exit and entrance wound is. If you've seen enough like gunshot wounds and whatnot, it's blatantly obvious from the picture. I'm not going to show it just because it might gross some of you out, but it is obvious that this is where the snake received the initial damage, and then the exit wound was actually below, it looks like, from the picture, either below or right on the side of the head, but either below the jaw or right here, which means that he shot it in the side of the head. There's no way that it could have been like this and the barrel was here, and because then the entrance and exit wounds would be right around here, around the base of the spinal cord. So there's no way that imagery is correct. That's just my interpretation of it, but it's clear that is how it went down, that it got shot in the side of the head and not in the middle or the center. And with a high-powered round like that, that is most likely it. I could also potentially have it flipped now that I'm looking at the picture, because the picture doesn't really show the head that well, but I can just tell where the 2 points of impact and exit were roughly. But the entrance could have also been here now that I'm looking at the picture, because the way that the bones fragmented on the base of the head, it looks like it went in. It might have went in here and exited here, based on the fact that there's a lot of blowout in this area of the skull in the picture. Which, if that's the case, he didn't. The events probably did not happen the way it is being described. If the exit wound was here and the entrance is here, if I have these flipped, which looking at the picture might very well be the case. Oh, I can't zoom in either on the picture. And it's in super low quality. If that's the case and the exit wound is here, he shot it in the back of the head, not in the front, which means that entire sentence was not true. But again, since it was a high-powered rifle, and like I mentioned, I'm no CSI. Hey, Fruit Loop, if you're gonna be messing with stuff, like, don't do that. Okay, he's manning the cam, but like I'm getting at though is that even though it's a high power round, because of how hard the impact would have been on that snake's head, the fragmenting on the surface of the skull in the picture, as well as some of the tissue kind of leaking out is the best way to put it, and spilling out of the skull may very well be because that is a high-powered round. But there's also leakage on this side as well, and there's fragmenting on both sides of the skull, so I guess it's kind of difficult for me to tell. Because, like I mentioned, I'm not a CSI. I don't investigate gunshot wounds for a living, or at all. Video number 3 with Fruit Loop incident. But, anyway, stepping back from my whole analysis here, we're going to get back to the article since we're nearing 60 minutes already. The snake was dead. Oh, wait a minute. Did I stop there? Okay, yeah. The snake was dead and the rattling stopped, and now his ears were ringing from firing a high-powered rifle in a metal building no larger than a typical public bathroom stall. Allowed to do it. That'd do some damage. My ears rang most of the day, which makes sense. I shot twice. There's no telling what it could have measured on a decibel meter. Actually, there probably is a way to tell, but I'm not going to get into technicalities here. The snake measured about 4.5 feet, which, judging by the snake's length, that seems about right. Based on how he was holding it, and I'm assuming he is about your average height. Which would probably, if the snake was 4.5 feet, he was probably about 5'9", in between 5'9" and 5'11". Based on that picture I showed earlier, where I cut the top off so you guys wouldn't see his face. The snake measured about 4.5 feet, had 8 rattles, and a girth larger than a canned drink. He had every opportunity in the world to bite me. Well, we're gonna. I looked up and I was like, I have a point, but I'm gonna first see if the article addresses it, like with the scope. It floored me, Jin said. I've never even thought I saw a rattlesnake, and then I see one 3 days after Christmas. He was also surprised he wasn't bitten. He had every opportunity in the world to bite me, and by the grace of God, I wasn't. Oops. I exited it. That's not what I wanted to do. Well, as I'm pulling it back up, I will make the point. It was not by the grace of God that you weren't bit. It was because the snake had no intention of killing you. It wanted you to get away from it. And it wanted to get away from you. And based on like my reassessment of probably how this building was set up, this snake probably had nowhere to go. Just the same as you didn't. There we go. Pulling it back up. But it wasn't by the grace of God that you weren't bitten. It was purely because, and I'm not saying there's no God before any of you guys get upset about that. What I'm getting at is that he wasn't lucky that he didn't get bit. It was purely just because that snake didn't want to bite him. I don't think a lot of people realize this, but it's a very expensive endeavor to make venom for snakes. Snakes, it takes a lot out of them. It takes a lot of calories, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time. So, why would a snake waste its venom on something it can't even eat? Because you also have to remember, that's what the venom's for. It's not to defend itself, it's to kill things that it can eat. Subsequently, the venom can also protect it. So no, you weren't lucky that you didn't get bit. It didn't want to kill you. It wasn't trying to kill you. It was trying to get you to get away from it, because it, based on like how this is sounding, the shade was probably like on the ground, and like he was obviously above it. The snake, technically, because of the pallet being probably about like this far apart, the snake being in this area, and then the rest of the building around it, it more than likely had nowhere else to go. Like, that's what I'm getting at. Neither of you had anywhere to go, but I'm sure if you would have been calm about it and would have tried getting out, because I'm sure that thing had a door somewhere. Because the way that he's making this sound is that there's nowhere he could go. Like, it's not like he could have... Like, how did he get in the shade in the first place? That there had to have been a door. Why don't you just take the door out? Like, was it in the ceiling? Was this thing suspended off the ground? Because the way it sounds is that the thing was not suspended off the ground at all. Like, it wasn't attached to a tree or something. It was on the ground. Which means that, you know, however many 4 walls, like it was said, 4 walls, well, there has to be a door. Like, or a hatch on the ceiling that you could get out of. You wouldn't design an aluminum box that you can't get out of. You could have just got out. Unless the exit was somehow the floor, which I really doubt, unless he can phase through matter and then pop up somewhere else. Like if he has like the power of permeation or something, there should have been a door somewhere. So, anyways, back to the article, because there's still a bit to go. Now that Jin knows timber rattlesnakes exist on his property, he's making a few changes. He typically does not use a flashlight when coming in and out of the woods in the dark, but he does now. And he also plans to change the floor of the ground blind. That answers my question. It's on the ground. There would have been a door. Take the door out. That's it. You didn't have to, like, stand on a chair and probably, like, scream and shoot your firearm at a snake when you could have just left. Left for a few minutes, collect yourself, and then find a way to get rid of the snake. Like, I guess I just don't understand. Or at least, if you're going to shoot at it, hit it the first time. Kill it with the first shot if you're going to have to kill it. Just people's ignorance baffles me at times. Plus, he also should have assumed that there would have been a chance of rattlesnakes being on his property, because rattlesnakes can be on any property throughout the United States for the most part, especially if you're in a rural area. And if he's deer hunting, he's definitely in a rural area. There's going to be the possibility of snakes on your properties. So, but anyways, the ground blind will have a solid wood floor in there, which he probably should have had from the beginning. I'm putting a, what is that, 3/4 of an inch plywood in and sealing it. I won't be. Well, apparently there's a maximum time that is slotted on my camera to record a video. So, I hit it reading that article and giving my 2 cents on it. But, hopefully it does not run into any more snakes. But yeah, there were things that could have been done differently. The snake didn't have to die. He didn't have to potentially get permanent hearing damage from shooting a high caliber round inside of a metal shack. But I don't understand how people can be so scared, because like, you just keep your calm, like keep cool. That's all you gotta do with wild animals. You just, well, some of them will be very agitated when you run into them, but like with snakes, they can sense when you're uneasy. I've been able to tell that, at least from all of my pet reptiles, that they can tell when I'm not happy, when I'm agitated, when I'm nervous, when I'm scared. They can pick up on it. Kind of like your dogs and cats. So, I guess moral of the story from my perspective is just be smart about it. Also, he's also partially at fault of the fact that he did not do a good job securing the underbelly of his shed. Would it be shed, shade, shack? I guess all those are good words to describe it. But his deer stand, there were multiple things that could have been done differently. But that's pretty much it. This is a long video. I think it's like going to be 24 minutes long. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been Bring Me the Boa. Let me know if this is something that I should do more often, and if I should do quicker. Yeah. I don't know, I had a lot of fun reading it. I'm going to try to pick shorter articles from now on. I might do a couple more of these just because it was fun for me. But let me know in the comments if you guys liked it or not. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And this has been Bring Me the Boa, and see you guys in the next one.